In this video we're going to look at solving quadratic equations. Let's imagine I gave you a problem that I said that something times by something is equal to 0. What that means is at least one of these things must be 0. If this was 0, like so say 0 times 2, it would be 0. This could also be 0, 2 times 0, 0. Or they could both be 0, 0 times 0 is 0. So when we have two quantities multiplying together and the answer is 0, at least one of these values is 0. And we're going to take that on board when we're solving quadratic equations. Let's imagine we had a quadratic equation and it was already factorized. Let's imagine it was factorized into the form x plus 4 x plus 5 equals 0. So the equals 0 part means that we're not finished this question here. What this equation means is that when I do x plus 4 and I times it by x plus 5, my answer is 0. But if we were to relate that to the first problem that we gave there just with the question marks, if I've got two things multiplying each other to give me the answer 0, it essentially means that this could be 0 or this could be 0. And in order to solve these, we need to split them up. So either x plus 4 is equal to 0 or x plus 5 is equal to 0. And then from here we would just go through a regular process of solving an equation. We would subtract 4 from both sides, so x would equal negative 4. And at this side we would subtract 5 from both sides, and x would equal negative 5. So either x equals negative 4, because if x equaled negative 4, I could substitute that in there, and then that first bracket would become minus 4 plus 4, which is 0, and then 0 times anything would be 0. And similarly, the same would happen if I substituted x equals negative 5 in here. So these are the two solutions to the quadratic equation, such that when we multiply them together, it would equal 0. Okay, here we've been asked to solve the quadratic equation x squared plus 8x minus 9 equals 0. So the equal 0 means it's not just a regular quadratic or factorising question. So I want to put this into brackets, and I need to find two things that multiply to give me minus 9. So I could have minus 1 and 9, or 1 and minus 9. I need to identify the factor pair, such that when I add them together I get plus 8, which would be this one here. So this is what I'm going to put into my brackets. So I'm going to have x take away 1 and x plus 9 equals 0. So I've got two things multiplying together that equals 0. So either this first bracket could be equal to 0, and if I solve that, I'm going to get x equals 1. Or this second bracket could equal 0, x plus 9 equals 0. I could solve that and get x equals negative 9. So these are the two solutions. X equals negative 9. These are the two solutions I'd be looking for when I'm solving this quadratic equation. So you factorise it into brackets, you split the brackets up, and you solve the corresponding equations. Okay, here I've been asked to factorise the quadratic equation 2x squared plus x minus 3 equals 0. So it's equal to 0, so I'm not just factorising it, I would then need to split my answers. So I need to put my answer into brackets. So I'm going to need to factorise this expression at the top. So first thing to note is, in front of the x squared we've got a number. So we're just going to have to factorise it a little bit differently. So we've got the numbers that multiply to give us 2, and we need to find multiples that give us minus 3. So we could have minus 1 and 3, 1 and minus 3, and remember we need to switch the order as well. 3 and minus 1, minus 3 and 1. we need to find the factor pair such that when we cross multiply and add, we get plus 1 essentially. The plus 1 would come from here. Okay, so if you look at this first term here, 2 times 3 is 6, take away 1 is 5, that doesn't work. So this would be minus 5. If you look at this one here, 2 times minus 1 is minus 2, minus 2 plus 3 is 6. This is the one that I am looking for. So, my numbers in the start of my brackets are going to be 2x and x, which corresponds to 2 and the 1 here, and it's going to be 2x plus 3 and x take away 1 equals 0. Remember, you can check that answer. If you multiply it out, you should get back to the starting problem. Okay, so we've got two things multiplying together to give me the answer 0. So I'm going to split them up. Either 2x plus 3 is equal to 0, or x minus 1 is equal to 0. We solve both sides to get x equals 1, and at this side subtract 3 from both sides, get 2x equals negative 3, divide through it by 2, get x equals minus 3 over 2. So I have two solutions after splitting them and solving those equations. That's your process of what you're doing when you are solving quadratic equations. Okay, you would need to factorize it, split your brackets up. If they were within a context question, you would need to just look at the context of the question and see that one of these answers makes sense, another one wouldn't, based on like the dimensions of a shape that you would be given. But I'll go into details on that in a later video. Thank you.